Welcome and happy Friday to everyone who's joined us here on Facebook and our webinar today. We're tuning in live from sunny Australia and Vietnam. My name is Rena and I'm joined today by Shane from the International Alumni Job Network and George from Sofiri. So welcome to you both. We're so pleased to have you join us today.
Oh, hi, Rena.
Hi. So today we're talking about what job opportunities are realistically available for international students when they graduate. And we're tapping into research that Shane and IAJN have led, as well as our panellists' many years of experience in international education and in working with international students and graduates. Shane, it sounds like there's a little bit of feedback coming from your computer. Could you please just make sure the mic is fine? Great, thank you. So let's talk about the agenda for our session today. So we're going to begin by talking about what opportunities are available for international graduates. And we're going to look at this from a really realistic perspective. And then we're going to open up the session for a question and answer segment where we'll take any questions you have for Shane and for George. And we'll wrap up the session with a screen share where we'll talk through how you can find out more about commencing a study program in Australia, if that's something that you're looking to do. So as always in our live sessions, whether you've joined us on Facebook or on our webinar, send us an emoji or a greeting to let us know you're here. And shoot us any questions that come to mind throughout the session and we'll answer them as we go. All right, so let's start by introducing ourselves to our viewers here today. Shane, I'll put this question over to you. Can you tell us about the International Alumni Job Network?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Rena, and hello, everyone. My name's Shane Dillon, and I'm the founder of IAJN, the International Alumni Job Network. And we're a professional network for returning international students that help students transition from education to employment back in their home countries. We're a young HR technology startup, and we've had over 200,000 international students and alumni now join our communities across 20 countries in Asia. So we connect last year students with global internship opportunities and work integrated learning through their universities. We help first year or fresh graduates meet new people and develop a professional network when they return through doing a bunch of really cool events. And then we help people throughout their careers by making sure that they can connect with international companies that are looking for international students, graduates, and alumni.
Wonderful. Thanks very much for that. Look, and now I'll ask you, George, can you tell us about Sofiri and what we can offer to a conversation about career opportunities for international students? George, it sounds like you're muted. Could you please?
Sorry.
There we go.
Sorry, my bad. I was just saying the same as the International Alumni Job Network. We are a young startup in the educational technology space. And basically, we're all about trying to connect future international students with education experts that can help them become an international student in countries like Australia or New Zealand, as an example. So to your question about what we're actually trying to do, we're also not only just looking, of course, at the education, but we see the value, of course, of how that education transforms people's life into the future. So it's not about just a year or 2 or 3 years that you'll be studying overseas. It's what happens with the rest of your life. And the important decision that our student is making and the impact that it'll have. So we want to make sure that our experts give the best advice possible when it comes to what people should be studying, because we know that there's a responsibility that we have in terms of telling people exactly how things work and what they can expect from having a study also.
Great, thank you for that. And I think that's a really great segue into what I'm really looking forward to discussing today, which is the research that IAJN has done into where and how international students typically find work when they graduate. Now, Shane, I know that's a big question, but maybe you can start by telling us about what the research is that you have done.
Yeah, sure. So in 2017, IAJN launched the International Student Employment Outcomes and Satisfaction Research. And we do this in partnership with leading research institutes like Nielsen's, we used in 2017. And this year we used a group out of Denmark called Decision Lab. What we're really interested in is what happens to international students after they graduate. How long does it take them to get a job? Are their jobs related to their study? How much income do they make? And then how does this affect the satisfaction levels they have with the return on investment of being an international student? Over the last 2 years, we've had 11,000 international student graduates give us data on their experience as international students and their employment outcomes. And they've also, as part of that research, reviewed over 13,500 university degrees and university experiences. So we've got a whole, wealth of data on students across markets such as China, India, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, and Hong Kong, on what actually happens to you after you graduate, what sort of money you're likely to make in your first job, and how your income will change as you progress through your career and can combine, years of experience with that great international education.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, and look, that's what we're really looking forward to discussing today. For our viewers who have joined us, many of them are current international students or they're thinking about studying in Australia. What would you say to them in terms of what they can look forward to upon graduating with an Australian degree?
Yeah, so our research shows that, the experience students have in Australia is really high. And then depending on where they return back to in the 7 countries we've covered in our research, they're looking at coming back. Sorry, I'm just finding the right page of the report to give you the information. So you're looking at coming back, and it takes on average around 2.5 months to find a job.
Okay.
So that's the average time to find a job for graduates. Their first job is tending to pay anywhere from $1,000 to $1,600 a month.
Okay.
And what we see that as people progress through their careers and they get some more experience, that increases. So the average alumni is now making close to $4,000 a month, with some people making, over $5,000-$6,000 a month back in their home countries.
Wonderful. Okay. And how would you, based on the research that you've done, how do you feel that graduate expectations meet with reality? Is there any disconnects there or anything that you would advise international students and international graduates to be aware of?
Yeah, I think, international students need to be realistic that graduates coming out of any education system, don't have the experience to demand really high salaries on day one. My advice to students has always been, particularly as you start your career, to focus on working with a great employer to really advance your career in the next few years. We see a really big disconnect on expectations of students returning to home countries on expectation with salary. And I guess the only people that are going to be really happy are those guys studying IT, because that's really a sector where you can come out as a fresh graduate demanding a pretty high income from day one.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure we'll have some questions about that in our questions and answers segment in a moment. So again, to anyone who's joining us on our webinar or on Facebook, please ask us any questions that you have for Shane and for George, and we'll ask them that in a moment. So George, based on your experience working in education in Australia for the past several years, What do you feel sets international graduates who do find jobs apart from international graduates who struggle to find work? Because a few things come to mind for me. Is it their final grade or their work experience, their CV, or is it just luck? Don't forget you're on mute.
Good question. So I'll say that it's a bit of everything. Yeah, on a personal basis, I've seen that not necessarily the students with the best grades are the ones that are getting quickly the best jobs. Definitely trying to get work experience, professional work experience, can make a difference. I guess as countries like Australia and New Zealand offer the opportunity for a post-study working option for students that graduate from, say, a master's degree or a bachelor's degree. And if the student was to use that opportunity to try to get some work experience before they were to go to their home countries, that could technically make a difference. Um, but even if it's not that, it's of course the work integrated learning opportunities that come through the job and the internships that possibly universities offer to students. Now, they're always also limited. I mean, in some cases, some universities offers a guaranteed internships for some specific degrees, but it will never be the case that every single international student will have an internship. It's slowly changing and it's much better these days than it used to be. But if students are really good, with good grades, there is a good chance that they can potentially, through their international offices in the universities, be able to connect with job opportunities even on an internship basis. So having on your resume that you not only study, say, in Australia or New Zealand, but you actually did have some work experience, real life work experience, is going to really make a difference when it comes to going back home and then finding a job that is not going to just be an entry salary, because you're going to say, I do have experience as well, like just not fresh of uni. Now, I think Shane mentioned it, about the expectation that just that you're going to get we have to be in the year 2018. There's still, people that might not be actually getting a job right away. That definitely things like sciences will have a bit more demand than courses related to other disciplines. But everything that you can do before you graduate to get you where you need to be for you to be able to get a job.
Sorry, it looks like you cut out a fair bit there, George, but I think we got the crux of what you were saying. Shane, was there anything that you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would really support George's statement there on work integrated learning internships. For us, we tend to separate alumni who come back when we're placing them with companies into those that really jumped into the Australian culture and surrounded themselves with English speakers and really come back, changed in some way. They've really developed their English language skills. They've really developed confidence and problem solving skills through adapting to a new culture.
Yeah.
As opposed to international students that I guess maybe stay around people of their own nationality, don't, start using English, every day for everything. And they come back and sometimes you feel like they haven't taken full advantage of that experience overseas. So to all the international students out there, I would say, get out there, mingle, make friends from all over the world while you're students in Australia, and really look at work integrated learning solutions. At IAJN, we do a lot of global internship placements. So if students are having a hard time getting an internship in Australia, we do a lot of placements in countries like Vietnam and Indonesia, placing international students with global companies over here. And that makes a huge difference as you go into the competitive workplace market. That, students that have internships, students that have work experience, whether that's part-time work while they were students or a 8-week internship or 12-week internship, it makes a huge difference when you're going for those top jobs.
Yeah, great. Look, I love that advice because it's actually something that we've heard from all our panelists throughout our live video series over the last 2 weeks. We've heard it directly from an international student himself who said, he was talking about the importance of getting out of your comfort zones, and spending time with people who aren't from the same country as you, for all the reasons that you just said. So yeah, thank you very much for that advice. It's great to hear. We've got Wakas here who's joined us, by the way, and he says hello, and the same for Rex who's joined us here. And we're getting a lot of love on our Facebook Live, so keep that coming, guys, and ask us any questions that you have for Shane or for George about anything to do with getting a job when you graduate. So I have a couple more questions for you both before we start our question and answers session. But let me start by asking, and we've talked a little bit about this already, but let's talk about it in a little bit more detail. George, I'll start by asking you, what can international students do while they are studying to best prepare themselves for the job market? We've talked about work-integrated learning a lot. Is there anything else that you would advise?
I think there is a lot of resources that university offer that are not part of the curriculum that students are actually not taking advantage of so many times. And that is, for instance, programs they have to prepare the students for them to understand how the market of searching a job works, how relevant it is to have a good LinkedIn profile and a good resume written. Things that they can, again, start doing and preparing way before they actually graduate. So by the time that they graduate, they're already having all these skills. So many times the students are brilliant at the subjects that they're actually doing, but they know they're not prepared, for instance, to be able to hold job interviews. So again, the universities do have international offices that offer a lot of that support and preparation. So there comes a time they can be better prepared. But again, it's unbelievable. So many times the students at the universities don't know that all of these things are available for them. So it takes a little bit more of proactivity by the students to go and ask. Get to your international office, whether it's a vocational provider you're studying or a university. But if you're studying a degree, they may have a lot of resources that go unused because the students are not asking the question.
Yeah. So basically what our advice is then is for students to think about their future careers from day one of their degree rather than waiting until when they graduate to start building up their CV and work-integrated learning and all the rest of it too.
Oh, there is another thing, and that is about, of course, professional work. So what happens is that international students, say, coming to Australia, they can only work part-time. So finding a professional job is usually very difficult. Having said that, students so many times go through a summer of 3 months where they don't have to study, right? And then technically during that period of time, they can work full-time. So if you can prepare in advance to try to apply for, say, temporary jobs that are in an office where you could be doing those 3 months of work. I've seen a lot of international students that are that smart, they can actually find a job in an office. And guess what? Some of them that do such a good job over that break period. By the end of it, they say to their employers, can I stay part-time? And many times they say, yeah, actually, what you've done, it's pretty good, and you have demonstrated that you're adding value to the organization, and they continue to work on a part-time basis. So they're able to get away from just working on retail and hospitality and that sort of jobs to start working in the industry even on a part-time basis. But it's the ones that are actually really want to do that and really make an effort, the ones that do it. But it's possible. More important, it's possible.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, Shane, I have one question for you before we start our question and answer session, where I'm sure everyone will have plenty to ask you about the research that IAJN has done into international graduate outcomes. But my question to you is about success stories. Can you tell us about one or perhaps two success stories of international graduates from Australian universities or colleges who have achieved the career success that they wanted?
Oh, sure. I mean, there's tons of success stories. By far, probably the most. Yeah, sure. There's a whole bunch of success stories for international students. I think the most famous International is a multi-billionaire, so there's a great thousands of success stories of people Australia and coming back. I can think of one young lady in Hanoi, from Vietnam, that was just nominated for the International Student of the Year in the UK at the Pioneer Awards. And she came through a charity organisation in Australia. She started as a street kid in Hanoi, was taken into a charity in Australia that taught her hospitality skills, then won a scholarship through that charity to go to Box Hill Institute in Australia, got a second scholarship to go through and do a university degree in hospitality management, won the International Student of the Year for Victoria, wow, and is now back in that charity organisation in a leadership role, helping the next generation of Vietnamese street kids to escape poverty. That's just one great example of how education can change lives. But there's really is, there are those top guys that the founders of Grab and Gojek, who both went to they ended up both going to Harvard and then starting, these massive unicorn tech companies. But there's thousands and thousands of examples of international students coming back, developing really successful careers, whether that's in, banking, insurance, starting their own companies, working for groups like the UN or the Bill and Hillary Gates Foundation. There's so many stories of success that we're very fortunate at IAJN to see every day.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us. George, I want to ask you the same question as well. I know that there's a wonderful success story of an international graduate at the University of Tasmania, Rebecca. Do you want to tell us about Rebecca?
Well, I'll tell you about Rebecca, and I'll tell you another one that I was just thinking as Shane was mentioning that. But yeah, Rebecca Hua, for instance, is one student that is from China, who did her bachelor's degree in China, and then she moved to Tasmania to do her master's degree. Through the studies that she was doing, she was quite proactive at developing content and being engaged with international students. And when working alongside the guys from the University of Tasmania, we realized of the potential of this student. 2-3 years later, after having worked in the university, she is these days a permanent resident in the state of Tasmania and is currently working with the government there promoting the Tasmania brand within the North Asian markets. But I also wanted to tell you about another case of another international student that I know myself. And it's actually, again, another piece of feedback for any future student, that so many times the idea of you going to another country is not just about you simply to go to Australia and do your 3-year undergrad degree or your 2 years master's degree. Universities offer exchange to international students as well. So this guy that I'm telling you came to Australia to do a 2 years master's degree, but during that 2 years, it took 6 months to go in exchange to a university in Europe. So he did that as well, and his degree was not only comprehensive enough to be saying that he had an undergrad from one country, but altogether already he had education in 3 countries. Comes 10 years later, and guess where he is working? He's in the United Nations, and he is basically leading operations for the United Nations in Afghanistan. But again, it's people that are trying to do and going beyond what is actually offered to them. The opportunities are there, but most of the time, the students are so concerned with other things that they completely miss it. And that's probably one of the things that we just want to say is a wake-up call from even before you start.
Great. Thank you for that. Now, look, what I want to do is start our question and answer session. So again, for anyone who's joined us, ask us any questions that you have for Shane or for George about getting a job when you graduate from your Australian degree. So I have a question here waiting for us. So, and I'll ask this one to you, Shane, because I know that you've done lots of research on this subject. But I have someone here who's asked, what kind of salary can I expect when I graduate? It's a very big, broad question.
Sure. It really is. I mean, it's dependent on 2 factors, really. One is, which country are you going back to? There are differences, in salaries from Hong Kong to Vietnam to Indonesia to different cities in China, and also a huge difference in costs.
Yeah.
So, sometimes always looking at that exact, salary figure doesn't always reflect maybe the quality or value of that salary in any given city.
Yeah.
The other factor is really what you studied. As I said, different industries go through cyclical demand and, supply issues. At the moment, there's a huge demand issue for technical IT people, so software developers, software engineers, and that's sort of universal. That's all over the world. We get non-stop demand for people studying in those degrees. Again, depending on what you study and where you go back to, but the average that we see is that students tend to earn anywhere between $1,000 and $1,500, $1,600 a month, US dollars. We sort of convert everything to US dollars because we operate across so many different currencies. But that's a pretty good suggestion on where you could start. This really also, again, depends on, I guess what you've put into your education and getting any sort of experience while you were there. So on the low end, maybe it's around $500-$600 a month, for people with no experience or people that, don't have any industry experience, all the way to $1,000 to $1,500, depending on the demand. So, for software guys, it tends to be more towards the $1,500. If you've studied a general commerce degree, it could be anything from $500 to $1,000 a month for that first year of employment after graduation.
Thank you very much. And to our question asker, feel free to ask us any follow-up questions if you have them as well. So I have another question here. And I guess it's off the back of us talking a lot about internships and work-integrated learning. But Shane, I'll ask you this question as well. It is, how do I find internships while I study?
Okay, so again, to break it into two categories. So there's internships in Australia, where you're studying, and then you've got global internships. So that's internships in a third country or maybe back in your home country. Then again, and then it goes to depending on your university. So a lot of universities that we talk to are now making work-integrated learning faculties or making contact points easier for students to find internship opportunities. We like to work with work-integrated learning so that the internships go towards course credit. Okay, so it gets you out of the classroom and into a work environment, but without setting you back in your studies as well. So what I do is suggest, you can always look on the IAJN website if you're looking for a global internship. But I really recommend, talking to the people at your university. Talk to a professor at the subject you'd like the most, and ask them, is there a contact person at the university that I can talk to about finding an internship?
Great, thank you. Yeah, and we'll put the IAJN website up in the comments as well for anyone who wants to take a look through that as well. Great. Is there anything you wanted to add to that, George?
Yes, that the reputation of Australian education providers is when it comes to
Oh, sorry about that. I think George has cut out there for a moment. I'm sure he'll be back with us in a minute. In the meantime, I'll move on and ask another question.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, he'll come back in. He'll come back in guns blazing, I'm sure. All right, I have a question here. It's from a student who says that they're in their second year of a 3-year business degree, and they've asked, when should I start looking for a graduate job?
Okay, that's a great question. I'm going to change it a little bit to say, the best people I've seen progress through their careers are always building their network.
Yeah.
Okay, so building your professional network should start today if you haven't already started. Go out, meet people. I have a big philosophy that we always promote saying be first. Okay, don't wait for someone to say hello. You say hello to them. Don't wait for someone to offer you a job. Go and ask someone for a job. The more proactive you are in meeting people, sharing your experience with people, being open and honest about if you are looking for a job or you're looking for an internship, and growing your network should start on day one. And those people, you might meet someone today who helps you get a job in 5 years' time. So I would say, to anyone thinking about their career, start on that professional development side, building networks, meeting people, get to know your professors, get to know, everyone you meet, the guy that you see at the shop, everyone to say hello and grow that network. In terms of looking for a job, most employers, aren't going to be looking too far out. Okay, so unless you're going into a graduate program for a bigger company, that could take anywhere from 6 to 9 months from application to actually starting that program. So if you're looking to go in for a program with a big bank, a big four accounting firm, those are the sort of programs you need to start early.
Yeah.
Everything else, to go back to what George said earlier, make sure you've got a good LinkedIn profile, join communities like IAJN where, companies can find you, and get yourself out there and make sure that that your resume looks good, there's no spelling mistakes, that your LinkedIn profile looks good and has a nice looking photo, that it's completed, that has the right information. These things are going to be the first thing that employers look for. And, and those are going to be things that are going to be job stoppers. And so you want to minimize as many of those and then maximize things that can give you an advantage, like a good introduction from someone through your professional network.
Right. So it sounds like your advice then is really start getting prepared to get yourself a graduate job right now if you're in your second year of a business degree. Yeah, great.
Cool. Rina, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can
also,
hear you.
Sorry about that. I was about to reply to your question before by saying that the quality of Australian education when it comes to graduate employment was actually recognized by international rankings only 4 days ago in a very monumental way. So there's an organization called QS who reports on multiple things. And they usually have those types of rankings that we all know about about universities on an international level. But this time they did a ranking on, again, how the quality of the graduates and the employment opportunities. And basically this included surveys to companies and so on. But they seem to recognize there that a couple of universities in Australia actually were in the top 10. And they were on top of universities like Oxford University in the UK, and universities that are the powerhouses, you can say. So I guess recognition to these universities that made it to the top 100 that includes UTS, RMIT, UNSW, Sydney, Melbourne. It's credit to obviously all the work they're doing in terms of getting the students prepared for a job, and not just simply the academic part of course, learning at the university degree.
Yeah, great, thank you. Look, I have one more question before we wrap up here today, but it's a question from someone who has asked, what websites or other ways do you recommend looking for a job when I graduate? So we've talked about a few different ways to find a job. Do either of you recommend any specific websites or anything really actionable that our viewers here can take away in terms of getting that holy grail of their perfect graduate job?
I certainly can with IAJN. That's what our website does. We are a community focused on international student employment. So, I highly recommend people to visit our website and create a profile. We do help students get internships, and we help graduates get graduate roles, and then we help people all the way through to MBA grads to get senior executive level roles as well. What we found and why we set up IAJN is that there wasn't a regional global platform for international students. There's a lot of localized job boards, in each country. And again, there's 20, 30, 40 job boards in each country that people can look at. One point I would make is to say that, the companies we talk to and the research that we look at, about 80% of jobs are not advertised. Okay, so it's really important to join communities. IAJN is a student alumni community that helps you get a job, but it first and foremost is a community. And that community is about the graduates helping the other graduates get jobs. So a lot of our members get jobs because they attend our events, because they connect with someone else through our community online, not necessarily because they saw the job on a job board. Yeah. If you're going to a job board ad, they tend to get, 200 or 300 applicants. So, it's a lot easier to get a job through someone you know. And the vast majority of jobs are still not advertised through job boards. People hire, people leave.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, and as I said, we're going to put that website in the comments here for anyone to take a look at as well. So that concludes our question and answer session. So I would recommend everyone who's tuned in today who isn't currently studying but who is thinking about coming to Australia to study to stay tuned, because we're going to take you through a tutorial on how you can get an education counsellor online and for free right now. But I will say goodbye to Shane and to George for now. Thank you to both of you so very much for joining us and sharing your knowledge with our viewers here today. So thank you again very much to both of you.
Thank you, Rena.
Thanks, Rena. It was really fun. Thanks, George.
Great. Thanks, guys. So for those of you on Facebook, stay tuned. And if you've joined us in our webinar, take a look at our chat window. We're going to pop in a link there to our screen share. So thanks again, everyone, and stay tuned. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining our live video session today. What I'm going to do now is show you how to get your very own Sofiri education expert. You'll get free education counselling that is tailor-made for your situation, and you can chat about courses, universities, colleges, or whatever it is you're after from your education journey in Australia. They'll also help you make your application and even apply for a student visa if you need one. All right, here we go. So if you're not already signed up to Sofiri, head over onto sofiri.com and click sign up. Enter in the email address you'd like to use along with a password and hit the sign up button. You'll be sent an email asking you to verify that it was you who signed up with us. So all you need to do here is click through the email and you're in. Okay, so at the beginning you'll see a quick little video showing you how Sofiri works. And I do recommend giving it a watch if you have some time. Once you click on My Profile, you'll need to enter in a few of your details so our education experts can have a good idea of where to begin a conversation with you. We are HTTPS and hosted in Australia, so you can be confident that your details are 100% secure. You'll need to enter in your given name, your surname, your date of birth, your email address, your country of citizenship, your current location, and your phone number. In the additional details box, you can select your highest level of study achieved and your latest degree and language that you prefer to chat in to give your education expert a little bit more information about yourself. Once you've done this, it'll be time to choose your education expert. So you'll click on Find an Expert, and in the box here you'll enter in where you'd like to study, what discipline you'd like to study, and your intended level of study. And that's important for you to pop in there because that's information that will again be sent to your education expert so that they can have the best information possible to help inform their advice to you. So I'm having a look at the listings here and I can see that there's Laurie here with 13 years of experience. She's from Sydney, Australia, and she speaks English. So I'm going to read more about Laurie. And I can see that I'm happy with her bio and I'd like to have a chat with her directly. So I'm going to click choose. So Laurie's online right now. I can see from that little green highlighted box next to her name. And I can expect Laurie to respond to me as soon as she's seen my message. She's got my details, so she knows a little bit about my story and will soon be able to start talking about courses and universities or colleges. Laurie will also make a study application on my behalf once I've chosen where and what I'd like to study. We can make up to 3 applications together and she'll guide me through the whole process. So this is an important piece of information for you to know, which is that all the guidance and advice and services that Laurie provides me with are completely free. So if I choose to accept my offer at a university or college, I'll pay the same course fees to them as if I'd done it myself with them directly. So Laurie is simply here to make the entire process easier for me. And that's it. So you can head on over now to sofuri.com to sign up. And again, I'd like to thank you for joining our live video session today. And if you head on over to Facebook and find this video recording, feel free to post up any more questions that you have for us about the topic we've spoken about. We're more than happy to answer you. And I hope to see you at more of our sessions in the future.